I want to talk about Brock Boeser, who was announced this week as a finalist for the Calder, as he should have been. But I was glad.
Do you think he should have been?
Yeah, I do. It's been a great year. It's been a great year for rookies, and we talked about Heischer. Like he didn't make the grade for a 52-point guy, and his team makes the playoffs, and he doesn't get a sniff of one of the finalists on the Calder ballot.
Okay, but this is why.
It's going to be Barzal. Like
no, for sure.
So
but
Barzal,
I'm just on my ballot. Yeah, like I was torn.
You're a voter.
Right?
I'm not. So
right.
Yeah.
He had 55 points, but he only played 62 games, so he missed 20 games. Kyle Connor, I think, played 74 or something like that. I think, and Connor had more goals. That was a really hard one to choose between those two guys. I think because of the number of points that Keller got, it got him into as a finalist. Barzal, obviously, home run pick, and he's going to win, and it's going to be unanimous. Like, everyone's going to pick Barzal.
And they should.
But ultimately, when I broke it down, like, Brock Boeser had more of an impact in Vancouver than Kyle Connor ever could have with the Jets. And Connor played on an incredible line. Like, I argue that it's the best. I think it's the best line of hockey. And Scheifele missed 22 games. He played 60, still had 60 points. Wheeler had 92 points this season, and Connor was on that line. And Boeser gets shuttled in to one of the worst offensive teams in the league. I think second last year in goals. He bumps them up. They got to 6th last this year, and it was all because of him. They went from the second worst power play for 3 years collectively into a top 10 power play. It was in the top 10 all year from the moment they made the switch in mid-November. And up to that point, he was on the second unit. And he was in that bumper spot. Like, I can't, like...
The one that made the coach giggle in Buffalo.
Right, but looking back, talk about regret. Like, that should have been a way bigger story. Like, we should have been grilling him on that far more than we were. So I think Boeser had, like, a massive impact. And when the season finally ended, he had a hand in half of the Canucks goals. I had to include him, and I guess a lot of other people did outside of Vancouver because that's why he ended up being a finalist.
Right. People out here always freak out about Eastern bias. Like, I was glad to see Boeser made the grade, and Keller in a market like Arizona wasn't overlooked in a year that had not just Connor, Charlie McAvoy, Pierre-Luc Dubois had a terrific finish for his rookie season in Columbus, again playing on a really good line. There were others, Yanni Gourde, a product, I think, of his environment down in Tampa and a little bit older, but I was glad to see Boeser's season recognized. Like, it was a great year for him. The All-Star stuff, we know that month of December where he was unstoppable.
It was great,
and good for him. Now, did you see the photo of Brock Boeser this week?
No,
you didn't see
that? Hawaii?
Yeah,
he's
scuba diving.
With his cast?
With a cast on, a massive cast on his right wrist.
Right, okay.
There he is, and the flow underwater.
Oh, you can see the flow.
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. Like, he's got the goggles on, but it doesn't affect the flow is there. But, like, damn, he's got a big cast on that right wrist.
Someone saw him at the airport on the way and told me how big it was. But you can't move it for 4 weeks. Like, it can't move. I think it's a little bit more serious than people let on, and I think it's hampered him a little bit more than people realize. I do think when he's at the award show, he honestly should give a shout out to the Provies, because let's be real, he was not on the map out east until that time when all those guys said Keller's the front. All those guys on Sportsnet and Hockey Night said Keller's the front runner, and Friedman went on. Then they didn't even mention Boeser in the list, and I and others said we are going to fucking change Friedman's mind. We are now going to change his mind. And much was written. The Flow nickname took off. T-shirts were made. Sweatshirts were made. Everything blew up. And damn it, Friedman changed his goddamn mind! And that influenced everything. And that's why I believe I'm going to pat myself on the back right. Like, get out the self-back patting machine. Bring it out. Wheel it out here. I want it. I want fucking back pats. Because I said... Because I said, we're going to change his mind. We changed his mind. And when Friedman got on board, everything changed. He's got that kind of power and that kind of influence because everyone watches Hockey Night. It's the hub of everything. And all of a sudden after that, Boeser was considered for a good 3 weeks. It lasted about 3 weeks. He was all of a sudden the front runner for the Calder. And that momentum carried him to the end of the season when, at the end, usually it's a points race. Even though he didn't have the most points, he still ends up as one of the finalists.
One of the things I loved the most about Brock Boeser's season was, he scored when the lights were brightest, too. Like the hat trick on a Saturday night against Sidney Crosby on national television, and the Penguins. And then he goes into Pittsburgh and 2 more again. Like he just lit up the Penguins and Matt Murray, that storyline. But in Toronto on that Saturday night in January, he makes the play where he bats the puck out of the air. Carey Price, that was maybe my favorite goal that he scored all year, where Price charges out. There's nothing to shoot at.
I could watch that all day, man. When I did a Boeser story last week, he mentioned that to me in the interview, and I went back and watched it. I thought, like, fuck, that's so great, man. I almost wanted, like, it's in the middle of the first round, like I wanted to tweet it out, like, watch this goal again. But I thought, you know what, that's.
But it was almost like he was like, further, come out more. Come on, keep coming, more. And he just rips that one. And then Henrik Lundqvist too. Like I think those are the last goals that he scored. And there was that one in the final minute of play, and he takes the pass on his backhand. And like a lot of guys would have panicked. No panic whatsoever. And Lundqvist looks like he's in a good position, and Boeser just ripped it past him as well. So he scored against Pekka Rinne. Like he beat really good goaltenders too. And I don't know if that factors into people's voting, but if you really go deep and break it down, like the quality of he wasn't lighting up backups and getting cheap goals. Like he was scoring big league, big time, big boy goals.
Yeah, and the question is now, like, can he do it again? And it's got a lot of fallout from that because it's going to impact his next contract. And I think that his camp, his side, his agent wants to wait another year, even though logically you would think that he would want to cash in now because he had such a great rookie season. And the Canucks actually want to try to sign him now, thinking that, he's going to have another, bigger year next year. And when you I started breaking it down, like looking at why does his agent, why do they believe that he can do more than this next year? Because he went on like a 2-month stretch where he led the league in goals. He was at a 20% shooting percentage in that run. Like, what are the chances? Like, I think he scored 19 of his goals in 28 games. Like, what are the chances he does all that again? But then you start looking at, well, he wasn't on that first power play unit for 6 weeks, for like 14 games. And he had 1 power play goal from that time. He was among the league leaders after that when they finally put him in the spot. He's for sure starting next year in the spot. And the first couple of months, he was averaging 15, 16 minutes a game. And when you talk about him coming up in the big moments, Horvat goes down, broken foot. Next 10 games, he scores 8 goals. And, yeah, clutch. The team lost. But they needed something, and he came up, he stepped to the floor, and he did what we always hoped Louis Eriksson would do. He said, I'm leading you guys. It wasn't enough. There was nothing to lead, but he did his best, and he had 8 goals in those 10 games, and a big part of that is he was playing 18 minutes. Now, in the last, after, I think there were 16 games after the All-Star break, and he averaged 18.43. That's how next season is going to start. He is going to be on the top line, and he is going to be playing 18.5 minutes a game. So more, even if you think, well, the shooting percentage ended the year at 16%, that could tail off a bit. Even if you think that, even though he says he's going to have healthier wrist, and we know what happened after the injury, the shooting percentage went way down. But even if you think that shooting percentage is going to fall, he's going to get a lot more opportunities to shoot pucks next year.
I do think that the power play is going to be interesting. I mean, Newell Brown earned his money this year. We talked about those changes in Los Angeles in November, and since then, I think they were the second best power play in the league after that, which is really remarkable when you think of where they finished in the standings with the second best power play from mid-November on. But now the Twins are gone. Vanek obviously left as well. Like, what is that power play going to look like? And they scored 53 power play goals. Like, that's going to be tough to replicate. For a team that finished 29th in 5-on-5 goals this past season, if they can't get anywhere close to that kind of power play production, it puts a real premium on even strength scoring, and a full season of Boeser should help. We'll see what Paterson can bring to the mix, but I was looking at it this morning. When you look at returning players, you know who the top 3 even strength goal scorers on the Vancouver Canucks were last season?
Wow.
Of the guys that are coming back.
Well, Boeser
one.
Yeah. Damn.
Horvat.
I would guess Horvat and Berchi?
No.
Horvat.
Say it. You know you want to. all 11 of his goals. Brandon Sutter
No,
was
really?
third
Oh, wow.
among returning Canucks
Oh.
in even strength goal scoring.
He went on a nice run at the end of the season. He had
He
8
did.
points in those final 9 games. He led the team. I don't know. Those games count.